In this video, I want to talk about function notation. I had previously talked about how you can represent functions using equations as y equal to something unique, like y equal to 3x minus 1. Function notation replaces the y with something of this form, which is read f of x. The idea being f is the function name, so this could change. It could be g of x, h of x, something like that. And x is the variable. This could also change. If I want to use a variable of t or s or something like that, I might call this something differently. So we would write f of x equal to 3x minus 1. But it's the exact same thing as writing y equal to 3x minus 1. It's just a little bit different notation. So why do we need this different notation? Well, if I have y equal to 3x plus 1, let's suppose I want to evaluate. So what I want to do is I want to find y when x is equal to 2. So using this notation, y equal to 3x minus 1, well, I'm going to let x be equal to 2, so I have 3 times 2 minus 1. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. However, using my other notation, we just say evaluate f of 2. So it's a more precise way to actually look at what happens at this function at particular points. So this would be 3 times 2 minus 1. So once again, f of 2 means change x to 2. We get the same answer at the end, it's just that this is a more precise way of saying it. So let's look at some examples of using this notation. Let's suppose we have f of x equal to x squared minus 1. I want to find f of negative 1, f of 0, and f of 1. Let's start with f of negative 1. So this means x is equal to negative 1. So we would have negative 1 squared minus 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, minus 1, so 0. So f of negative 1 is 0. So what this means is if I actually looked at this, when x is negative 1, we know that y is 0. So I actually have the point negative 1 comma 0 on the graph of this function. Next, let's look at f of 0. So this tells me x is equal to 0. So I'm going to change the x to a 0. 0 squared minus 1. Well, 0 squared is 0. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So this tells me that when x is 0, y is negative 1. So this has the point 0, negative 1. Finally, for f of 1, this tells me x is equal to 1. So I would have 1 squared minus 1. 1 squared is 1, minus 1 is 0. So if x is equal to 1, then y is equal to 0. So I also have the point 1 comma 0. We can also do some other stuff with this. So let's look at f of x equal to 4x plus 2. Something we may want to know, for what value of x is f of x equal to 0? So I want to change the f of x to 0 since f of x is equal to 0. And now I would solve. We could add 2 to both sides. That would give me 2 is equal to 4 over x. Divide both sides by 4. 2 divided by 4 is 1/2 is equal to x. So if I input 1/2, I get an output of 0. Now let's say I have something like f of x equal to x squared plus 2, and I want to evaluate f of x plus 1. So what this says is I'm going to replace the x here with an x plus 1. So instead of x squared, I'm going to write x plus 1 squared plus 2. We can double check over here and do some scratch work. But if I FOIL this, the first 2 gives me x squared, the outside gives me x, the inside gives me x, and the last 2 give me 1. So x squared plus 2x plus 1. So this is x squared plus 2x plus 1, and then I still have the plus 2. So we end up with x squared plus 2x plus 3. We can also look at function notation with a graph. So let's look at what it is that we're actually finding. So here I have my graph, and let's say I want to find f of 2. Well, what this means is that x is equal to 2, so what is y? So if I go over to 2 on the x-axis, and then down, I can see that my y value would be -1. So f of 2 is equal to -1. On the other hand, if I say f of x is equal to 3, that means I know y is equal to 3, but I don't know x, since I'm missing the x. So here I go up to 3 on the y-axis and over, and we can see we actually have 2 points. In this case, x is 0 here, and x is 4. So what we have is that f of 0 is equal to 3, and f of 4 is equal to 3. So if we have a number in between these parentheses, that tells me my x value. But if I have it equal to, that's telling me what my y value is.